Ladies and gentlemen, there is a disease spreading, but it does not attack the body, it attacks the mind. It is silent, insidious, and self-inflicted. It is brain rot, the slow decay of discipline, reason, and clarity in the face of indulgence, distraction, and weakness. And it is far worse than you think. The silent decay is something that often goes unnoticed until it becomes overwhelming, and by that time, it is too late to reverse the damage. It begins subtly, almost imperceptibly, and progresses at a pace so gradual that we hardly feel the change. At first, it might appear as harmless distractions or fleeting moments of laziness, but soon these habits accumulate, and before we know it, they have eroded the very core of our cognitive abilities. In the modern world, we are bombarded by a constant stream of information, tweets, news updates, podcasts and videos, all competing for our attention. With the click of a button, we can access more content than a person in the past could consume in an entire lifetime. The accessibility of this information, combined with its often shallow nature, has led to an epidemic of superficial engagement with the world. This constant flow of distractions is the breeding ground for brain rot. The mind is no longer given the space to rest, to process, or to think deeply. Instead, it is constantly jumping from one stimulus to the next, never truly settling or focusing. The result is a significant decline in the ability to think critically or engage in deep, meaningful reflection. We become conditioned to expect instant gratification. The idea of sitting down and focusing on a single task for an extended period becomes uncomfortable, almost alien. The world has taught us to crave novelty, and in doing so, it has weakened our ability to concentrate. As a consequence, our ability to analyze, solve problems, and make sound decisions diminishes. The brain, like any muscle, needs exercise to stay sharp. When we fail to challenge it, when we allow it to be lulled into a state of passive consumption, it starts to lose its edge. Furthermore, this silent decay manifests in our emotional states. As our cognitive abilities decline, so too does our emotional intelligence. We become more reactive than reflective, more prone to impulsivity and emotional outbursts than thoughtful responses. When we live in a state of constant distraction, we do not take the time to check in with ourselves. We do not sit in stillness long enough to understand why we feel a certain way or what is truly bothering us. Instead, we turn to external sources to soothe our discomfort, whether that is through mindless scrolling, food, or other forms of escapism. This lack of introspection leaves us vulnerable to the ups and downs of our emotions, and we find ourselves more easily swayed by external circumstances. Social media, with its relentless cycle of dopamine hits, plays a central role in this mental decay. It gives us a false sense of connection while distancing us from real, meaningful relationships. We are constantly exposed to the highlight reels of other people's lives, and this skews our perception of reality. We begin to compare ourselves to these fabricated versions of success and happiness, which only exacerbates feelings of inadequacy and dissatisfaction. This cycle of comparison, coupled with the constant stream of information, creates a feedback loop that accelerates the decay. Our brains, overwhelmed and overstimulated, struggle to distinguish between what is essential and what is irrelevant. We become mentally fatigued, unable to focus on the things that matter most. This mental decay, if left unchecked, can lead to a host of negative consequences. Our personal relationships suffer because we are no longer present. We fail to listen deeply or empathize with others because our minds are elsewhere, scattered by the constant demands of the digital world. Our work begins to suffer as well. We struggle to finish tasks, meet deadlines, or produce high-quality results because we cannot focus long enough to dive deeply into our work. Creativity, which thrives on sustained attention and deep thinking, is stifled by the shallow and fragmented nature of our modern existence. Perhaps the most troubling aspect of brain rot is its insidious nature. Unlike physical illnesses that produce immediate symptoms, the mental decay occurs quietly in the background. It is easy to convince ourselves that we are fine, that we are merely tired or busy, and that we will get back on track once things settle down. But by the time we recognize the problem, it may be too late to reverse the damage without significant effort. The longer we neglect the health of our minds, the more difficult it becomes to regain clarity and focus. In essence, the silent decay of the mind is the result of a culture that promotes convenience, instant gratification, and superficial engagement over deep thinking, self-discipline, and mental clarity. It creeps in quietly, but over time, it erodes the very qualities that make us human: our ability to reason, to reflect, and to grow. The danger is not in one or two moments of distraction, but in the cumulative effect of neglecting our mental well-being day after day. The mind, when left unchecked, will degrade into something far less powerful, far less capable, and far less free. In the world we live in today, silence is increasingly rare, and noise is overwhelmingly abundant. The noise is not just physical, but mental and emotional as well. Everywhere we go, there's something clamoring for our attention, whether it's the hum of traffic, the buzz of notifications, the chatter of conversations, or the constant barrage of media content. It is a world that demands our engagement at every moment, leaving little room for stillness, reflection, or quiet contemplation. This constant noise shapes the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we live our lives, often in ways that we do not fully realize. The digital age has amplified this noise to unprecedented levels. Social media platforms, news outlets, streaming services, and mobile apps all vie for our focus, each offering new content designed to grab our attention and hold it. We have access to an endless stream of updates, tweets, videos, and stories, each more compelling and urgent than the last. The more we consume, the more we crave, creating a cycle that feels both satisfying and draining at the same time. We are so used to this noise that we often don't even notice how it's affecting us. The phone in our pocket constantly buzzes, beckoning us to check it, even when we know there's nothing important waiting for us. We scroll through social media feeds, often without purpose, simply because it has become the default action in moments of boredom or idle time. But the noise is not just external, it has a deep effect on our internal world. When we are constantly bombarded with information and distractions, it becomes difficult to focus on any one thing for an extended period of time. Our attention spans shrink, and we lose the ability to think deeply and critically. We jump from one thought to the next without ever fully engaging with any of them. The consequence is that we start to experience a sense of mental fragmentation, unable to concentrate or process information effectively. The brain, in response to this onslaught of stimuli, becomes accustomed to constantly switching gears from one task or topic to another, never allowing itself to settle into a single focus. As a result, our capacity for deep thinking and reflection diminishes. We no longer take the time to process our emotions or to consider the consequences of our action. We are conditioned to react rather than to think. We allow the noise of the world to dictate our emotions, shaping our moods and decisions based on the external stimuli we encounter. If we hear bad news, we feel anxious. If we see a post that makes us feel inferior, we experience jealousy or inadequacy. If we encounter a viral trend, we feel compelled to participate, even if we don't fully understand it. Our sense of self becomes more reactive, shaped by the endless stream of information, rather than by our own values, beliefs, and reflections. The noise also isolates us, despite the illusion of connection it provides. We may have more ways to communicate with others than ever before, but this communication is often shallow, fragmented, and disconnected. Instead of engaging in deep, meaningful conversations, we exchange quick messages, emojis, and superficial comments. We are always connected, yet rarely truly present with one another. We may have hundreds or even thousands of friends or followers, but these relationships are often based on surface-level interactions, devoid of the richness that comes from face-to-face communication and shared experiences. The more we immerse ourselves in the digital noise, the more distant we become from real human connection. The quality of our relationships suffers because we no longer know how to engage deeply, and the constant noise around us makes it harder to tune in to what truly matters in our interactions with others. Moreover, the sheer amount of noise in our environment creates a sense of overwhelm. We feel as though we are constantly running to keep up with everything that's happening around us. The pressure to stay informed, to stay engaged, and to keep up with the pace of modern life leaves us feeling exhausted, both physically and mentally. The noise distracts us from our own needs, desires, and goals. It becomes a form of escape from the discomfort of introspection or the challenge of focusing on the difficult work that requires sustained effort. It's easier to lose ourselves in the noise than to face the hard questions that lie within. The noise provides a convenient distraction from the complexities of life, but it does not help us resolve them. Instead, it buries them under a pile of superficial distractions, leaving us with a sense of emptiness when the noise dies down, only to pick up again. This world of noise, this constant barrage of external and internal distractions, keeps us from finding peace and clarity. It drowns out our ability to listen to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us. We lose touch with the rhythms of life, with the things that truly matter. We become disconnected from our own values, desires, and aspirations, and instead live in a state of constant reaction to whatever external force grabs our attention at any given moment. The noise creates a sense of urgency, a feeling that we must always be doing something, always be moving forward, always be engaged. It keeps us from stepping back, from taking a deep breath, from considering what is truly important. Living in a world of noise is exhausting, and over time it wears us down. We are left feeling anxious, disconnected, and unfocused. It is only when we step away from the noise, when we create space for silence and reflection, that we begin to reclaim control over our minds and our lives. Silence, in contrast to the constant barrage of noise, allows us to reconnect with our true selves, to find clarity, and to make decisions based on our own values, rather than the distractions of the world around us. In a world that never stops shouting, silence becomes a rare and invaluable commodity. The mind, when understood and honed, is the most powerful weapon a person can possess. It shapes our reality, determines the choices we make, and ultimately dictates the course of our lives. However, the mind is not a weapon by default. In its natural, untrained state, it is often scattered, easily influenced, and prone to emotional turbulence. To wield the mind as a weapon, it requires discipline, focus, and an understanding of its incredible potential. It is through the cultivation of these qualities that we can unlock the true power of our mental faculties, transforming ourselves into individuals capable of extraordinary feats. At its core, the mind is a tool for perception and reasoning. It processes information, interprets experiences, and shapes the way we view the world around us. However, the way the mind processes this information is not always accurate. It is often clouded by biases, emotional responses, and unconscious patterns of thought. This makes the mind both powerful and dangerous. When left unchecked, it can lead us into destructive behaviors, poor decision-making, and unnecessary suffering. But when trained, the mind can act as a laser-focused tool that cuts through confusion, overcomes obstacles, and produces clarity in even the most chaotic of situations. The first step in using the mind as a weapon is developing the ability to control it. Most people are at the mercy of their thoughts, with their minds constantly flitting from one idea to the next. Driven by external stimuli and internal desires, the mind becomes a prisoner of its own impulses, pulled in countless directions by distractions, worries, and emotions. In this state, we are reactive rather than proactive. We are constantly responding to the world around us, instead of making deliberate decisions that align with our goals and values. Through mindfulness and meditation, we can begin to take control of the mind. By practicing stillness and cultivating an awareness of our thoughts, we can learn to observe them without being swept away by them. Instead of reacting impulsively to every emotion or thought that arises, we begin to create space between stimulus and response. This space allows us to make conscious, deliberate choices, rather than being governed by our knee-jerk reactions. Over time, we can train the mind to remain calm and focused, even in the face of adversity. This mental discipline is the foundation of using the mind as a weapon. Once we have gained control over our minds, the next step is to train them to think critically. A sharp mind is one that does not accept information at face value, but evaluates it carefully, weighing evidence and considering alternative perspectives. In today's world, where information is abundant and often contradictory, critical thinking is an essential skill. The mind must be able to discern fact from fiction, to separate truth from illusion, and to make decisions based on logic and reason rather than emotion or bias. Critical thinking requires the ability to challenge our own assumptions and beliefs. It is easy to fall into the trap of confirmation bias, where we seek out information that supports our existing views and ignore anything that contradicts them. A weaponized mind, however, is one that is willing to question its own beliefs and be open to new ideas. It is not afraid to entertain discomfort or uncertainty, recognizing that growth and understanding come from embracing complexity and ambiguity. Alongside critical thinking, the mind must also be trained to maintain emotional resilience. Emotions, while a natural part of the human experience, can be incredibly powerful and sometimes overwhelming. They have the potential to cloud judgment, disrupt focus, and influence decisions in ways that are not in our best interest. The ability to master one's emotions is what separates those who live by impulse from those who act with purpose and control. A weaponized mind recognizes that emotions are not inherently bad, but rather they must be understood and managed. Emotional resilience allows us to maintain clarity even in moments of stress, to think with logic rather than reacting emotionally to the world around us. Another key aspect of the mind as a weapon is its ability to maintain focus. In a world full of distractions, the ability to concentrate on a single task for an extended period is a rare and valuable skill. Whether in the pursuit of personal goals, professional success, or intellectual growth, the ability to stay focused on the task at hand is crucial. A wandering mind may be easily distracted by the noise of the world, but a disciplined mind remains singular in its purpose. This kind of focus allows us to move past procrastination, to persist through difficulty, and to ultimately achieve our objectives. Lastly, the mind must be trained to remain adaptable. The world is constantly changing, and our circumstances are never static. The ability to remain flexible in the face of change, to adjust our thinking and strategies when necessary, is a hallmark of a well-developed mind. A rigid, inflexible mindset can lead to frustration and stagnation, while an adaptable mind can navigate uncertainty with grace and intelligence. This adaptability also includes the ability to learn from mistakes and to evolve over time, understanding that growth is a continuous process rather than a fixed destination. In its fullest form, the mind is a weapon capable of shaping reality itself. Through control, discipline, critical thinking, emotional resilience, focus, and adaptability, the mind becomes an unstoppable force that can overcome any obstacle, solve any problem, and create the life we desire. The mind, when properly honed, can turn ordinary individuals into extraordinary ones, capable of achieving greatness in any endeavor. But it requires commitment and effort. The mind is not a weapon that is easily wielded, nor is it something that can be taken for granted. It must be constantly sharpened, refined, and trained in order to realize its full potential. Discipline and indulgence are two forces that often pull us in opposite directions, shaping the way we live our lives and making decisions that impact our future. On the one hand, discipline is the practice of self-control, delayed gratification, and long-term focus. It is the ability to resist short-term pleasures in pursuit of more meaningful, lasting goals. On the other hand, indulgence is the tendency to give in to immediate desires, often at the expense of our well-being or long-term success. It is the easy choice, the path that requires little effort or sacrifice, but ultimately leads to short-lived satisfaction and long-term consequences. In a world full of distractions and temptations, learning to prioritize discipline over indulgence is not only a matter of personal growth, but it is also the key to achieving true fulfillment and success. The foundation of discipline lies in the understanding that actions have consequences. Every choice we make has a ripple effect, and the consequences of our decisions are not always immediately apparent. When we indulge in short-term pleasures, whether it's overeating, binge-watching television, or procrastinating on important tasks, we may feel good in the moment, but we fail to acknowledge the long-term damage we are doing to our bodies, minds, and futures. We may temporarily satisfy a craving or avoid the discomfort of hard work, but in doing so we forgo the satisfaction of true achievement, the strength that comes from overcoming challenges, and the fulfillment of reaching our highest potential. Discipline, however, is built on the recognition that sacrifice in the present is necessary for long-term rewards. It requires the ability to delay gratification and to resist the urge to give in to momentary temptations. For example, choosing to wake up early and exercise instead of hitting the snooze button, or deciding to spend time working on a challenging project rather than scrolling through social media, requires a high degree of self-discipline. It means making choices that are often not the most comfortable or enjoyable in the moment, but will pay off in the future. This practice of discipline is not about denying oneself pleasure entirely. Rather, it is about choosing the right pleasures and rewards at the right time. It is about understanding that true satisfaction comes not from indulgence, but from achieving goals, growing as individuals, and making choices that reflect our values and aspirations. The struggle between discipline and indulgence is a constant battle, especially in a society that encourages instant gratification. The modern world is filled with conveniences that make indulgence easy. Fast food, streaming services, social media, and other distractions are just a click away, offering immediate pleasures with little effort. In contrast, discipline requires conscious effort, often involving hard work, perseverance, and discomfort. The difference between the two is evident in the way we approach challenges and setbacks. Indulgence encourages avoidance of discomfort, while discipline embraces it as a necessary part of growth. When we choose discipline over indulgence, we are not simply working toward external success. We are building the internal strength and resilience needed to handle the inevitable challenges of life. Discipline teaches us to control our impulses, to stay focused on our long-term vision, and to push through difficult moments when everything within us wants to give up. It cultivates a mindset of persistence, grit, and mental toughness that enables us to overcome obstacles and rise above adversity. Those who practice discipline are more likely to persevere in the face of failure, setbacks, or frustration because they have developed the mental fortitude to keep going, regardless of how difficult the path may be. Indulgence, on the other hand, can lead to a cycle of short-term satisfaction followed by regret, guilt, and stagnation. The pursuit of immediate pleasure often leads to negative consequences, whether it's health problems from poor eating habits, mental fatigue from excessive screen time, or missed opportunities due to procrastination. Indulgence might provide temporary relief from stress or discomfort, but it does nothing to address the root causes of our dissatisfaction. It's like putting a bandage on a wound instead of addressing the underlying injury. Discipline, on the other hand, addresses the deeper needs for personal growth, well-being, and purpose. Another key element of discipline is the ability to prioritize what truly matters. In a world where we are constantly bombarded by distractions, it can be easy to lose sight of our goals and values. Indulgence often comes at the expense of what's truly important. It's the distraction that pulls us away from meaningful work, the temptation that leads us to neglect our health or relationships. Discipline, however, requires that we stay focused on the things that align with our values and long-term objectives. It asks us to be mindful of where we invest our time, energy, and resources. It's about knowing when to say no to the things that do not serve us and saying yes to the things that bring us closer to our higher purpose. The practice of discipline also helps us build habits that reinforce our long-term success. By consistently making disciplined choices, we create routines and rituals that propel us toward our goals. Whether it's committing to a morning workout, setting aside time each day for reading or learning, or developing a daily practice of reflection, discipline shapes the way we approach our day-to-day lives. Over time, these habits become ingrained in our routine, and the process of achieving our goals becomes second nature. In contrast, indulgence often leads to habits that derail progress, leaving us feeling stuck, unproductive, and dissatisfied. Ultimately, choosing discipline over indulgence is a commitment to personal growth and self-mastery. It is the understanding that the choices we make today determine the life we live tomorrow. The more we prioritize discipline, the more control we have over our lives and the more capable we become of achieving our fullest potential. Indulgence may feel good in the moment, but discipline offers a deeper, more lasting satisfaction that comes from knowing we have stayed true to ourselves, our values, and our highest aspirations. In a world that is increasingly fast-paced and full of distractions, mental clarity has become a rare and valuable commodity. The mind is constantly being bombarded by external stimuli. social media notifications, news cycles, emails, and the constant chatter of everyday life. The ability to focus, think clearly, and make sound decisions is something that requires effort and intentionality in today's environment. Guarding mental clarity is essential, not just for personal productivity but also for emotional well-being and overall life satisfaction. It is the foundation upon which we build our ability to navigate challenges, manage stress, and make choices that align with our long-term goals. One of the first steps in protecting mental clarity is understanding what threatens it. The modern world offers countless distractions that can pull us away from the present moment. Social media, with its endless feeds and constant updates, has become one of the most significant culprits. The more we scroll, the more our minds are pulled in different directions, often leaving us feeling overwhelmed or mentally fatigued. The instant gratification provided by likes, shares, and comments creates a constant feedback loop that keeps our minds engaged but rarely allows for meaningful reflection or focus. The sheer volume of information we encounter every day also contributes to mental clutter. From advertisements to unsolicited opinions, it's easy to feel like our minds are constantly racing, trying to process and make sense of everything coming our way. This overstimulation leads to mental fatigue, making it harder to concentrate on important tasks or think critically. Our minds are not equipped to handle an unceasing flow of external information without a break. Just as our bodies need rest to recharge, our minds need periods of stillness and focus to maintain clarity. Without this time to reset, our cognitive functions decline and our emotional resilience weakens. We find ourselves reacting to situations instead of responding thoughtfully. We become more likely to make snap judgments or fall prey to negative thinking patterns. The key to guarding mental clarity, then, is to minimize the clutter and noise that fills our minds and create space for deeper, more focused thinking. One of the most effective ways to protect mental clarity is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, without judgment or distraction. It allows us to quiet the mental chatter that often clouds our thoughts, and to connect more deeply with our surroundings, our emotions, and our thoughts. By practicing mindfulness regularly, we train our minds to focus on the task at hand and reduce the tendency to become overwhelmed by external stimuli. Whether through meditation, deep breathing exercises, or simply taking a few moments each day to pause and check in with ourselves, mindfulness helps restore balance and clarity to our minds. Another important practice in guarding mental clarity is setting boundaries. In a world that constantly demands our attention, it is crucial to learn to say no to things that do not align with our priorities. This might mean limiting our time on social media, setting clear working hours to prevent burnout, or declining invitations that would overwhelm us. By establishing boundaries, we create space in our lives for the things that truly matter, rather than allowing ourselves to be pulled in every direction by the expectations of others. Boundaries help protect not only our time, but also our mental energy. They give us the ability to conserve our cognitive resources for the things that require our focus and attention, rather than squandering them on trivial or unnecessary tasks. Equally important is the need for rest and recovery. Our minds are not designed to operate at full capacity all the time. Just as physical exhaustion requires rest for recovery, mental exhaustion needs periods of relaxation and rejuvenation. Ensuring that we have time to rest, whether through sleep, hobbies, or simple downtime, is essential for maintaining mental clarity. Sleep, in particular, plays a crucial role in cognitive function. During sleep, the brain consolidates memories, processes emotions, and clears out toxins that build up throughout the day. Without sufficient sleep, our mental clarity suffers, and we become more prone to making mistakes, feeling irritable, or struggling to concentrate. Additionally, managing stress is key to preserving mental clarity. Stress is an inevitable part of life, but chronic stress can cloud our judgment, impair our decision-making, and make it difficult to maintain a sense of perspective. Developing healthy coping mechanisms such as exercise, journaling, or talking to a trusted friend or therapist can help alleviate stress and prevent it from overwhelming us. Stress management techniques also allow us to stay calm in difficult situations, preventing the mental fog that can arise when we feel overwhelmed. When we are stressed, we are more likely to engage in reactive thinking, which can lead to poor decision-making and emotional instability. By learning to manage our stress, we protect our ability to think clearly and maintain emotional balance. The food we consume also plays a significant role in mental clarity. What we put into our bodies has a direct impact on how our brains function. Diets high in processed foods, sugars, and unhealthy fats can lead to brain fog, decreased concentration, and low energy. On the other hand, a balanced diet rich in whole foods, such as fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and healthy fats, nourishes the brain and supports cognitive function. Hydration is another often overlooked aspect of mental clarity. Dehydration can lead to feelings of fatigue, lack of focus, and irritability. By taking care of our bodies through proper nutrition and hydration, we lay the foundation for a clear and sharp mind. Lastly, cultivating positive thinking is essential in maintaining mental clarity. Negative thought patterns, such as constant worry, self-doubt, or fear, cloud our judgment and prevent us from seeing things clearly. While it's normal to experience negative thoughts from time to time, it is important to challenge them and replace them with more constructive, positive perspectives. Practices such as gratitude, self-compassion, and affirmations can help reframe negative thinking and restore clarity in difficult situations. By fostering a positive mindset, we make it easier to navigate challenges with a clear head and maintain a sense of peace, even in times of uncertainty. Guarding mental clarity requires consistent effort and mindfulness in a world that constantly seeks to overwhelm us. It is about protecting our cognitive resources, creating space for focus and reflection, and being intentional about what we allow to occupy our minds. Through mindfulness, setting boundaries, managing stress, and nurturing our bodies and minds, we can preserve the clarity we need to make thoughtful decisions, navigate challenges, and live more intentionally. The balance between control and submission is an ongoing internal struggle that defines much of our experience in the world. Every day we are presented with choices that challenge our autonomy, testing our ability to take charge of our lives versus letting external forces dictate our path. The battle of control or be controlled is one of the most fundamental aspects of the human condition. Whether it's our personal emotions, the influence of others, or societal expectations, we face constant pressure to either assert our will or succumb to the forces that surround us. This struggle shapes not only our actions but our identity, relationships, and ultimately the course of our lives. At its core, the idea of control is rooted in autonomy, the ability to make decisions and govern one's own actions. To be in control is to live intentionally, making choices that align with one's values, desires, and goals. Control allows us to direct our lives with purpose, ensuring that we are the ones steering the ship rather than letting the tides of circumstance determine our direction. People who maintain control over their lives are often those who are able to prioritize long-term goals over short-term gratification, who are able to face adversity with resilience, and who do not allow outside influences to divert them from their chosen path. When we are in control, we feel empowered, capable of shaping our reality and achieving the things we desire most. However, the concept of control is not always as straightforward as it seems. Life is inherently unpredictable, and despite our best efforts, many factors are beyond our influence. There are forces in the world that will push us off course, that will challenge our plans, or that will make us feel powerless. The expectations of others, societal norms, and external pressures can create a sense of being controlled, as though we are merely following the script handed to us by life. We may find ourselves acting out of obligation, fear, or a desire for approval rather than out of genuine intention. In such cases, we are not living with purpose, but instead are being swept along by forces outside our control. Moreover, the desire for control itself can sometimes become a form of self-sabotage. The need to control every aspect of our lives can lead to perfectionism, anxiety, and a lack of flexibility. A person who is constantly striving for control may find themselves overwhelmed by their own expectations, unable to adapt to the natural ebb and flow of life. In these instances, the quest for control can paradoxically lead to feelings of helplessness, as the individual becomes consumed by the fear of losing grip on their carefully constructed reality. The need to control can create stress and diminish our sense of well-being, as we focus more on what is out of our reach than on the present moment. On the other hand, Allowing oneself to be controlled by external factors can lead to a sense of stagnation or helplessness. When we give up our autonomy, we relinquish our power to shape our lives. We may become trapped in patterns of behavior that are dictated by the expectations of others or by circumstances outside our control. This submission to outside forces often leads to frustration, resentment, and a lack of fulfillment. We may find ourselves stuck in jobs we don't enjoy, relationships that drain us, or lifestyles that don't reflect our true desires, all because we allowed external influences to shape our choices. The danger of being controlled is not just about the loss of freedom, but also the loss of self. When we stop making decisions based on our own values and beliefs, we begin to lose sight of who we are and what we truly want. We become disconnected from our inner compass, and life begins to feel like a series of reactions rather than proactive choices. This can lead to feelings of confusion, anxiety, and even depression as we struggle to reconcile the life we are living with the person we wish to be. The more we give up our agency, the harder it becomes to reclaim it. The key then lies in finding balance. It is not about being in control of everything, nor is it about completely relinquishing control to outside forces. Instead, it is about recognizing where we can exert our influence and where we must let go. Life is full of uncertainties, and it is impossible to control every situation or outcome. However, we can control how we respond to challenges, how we manage our emotions, and how we choose to act in the face of adversity. In this way, we retain our autonomy without being overly rigid or perfectionistic. We understand that while we may not always have control over external circumstances, we always have control over how we approach them. Being in control doesn't mean resisting change or avoiding discomfort. It means adapting to life with a clear sense of purpose and direction. It's about accepting that there will be things we cannot control, but choosing to focus on the things we can. When we adopt this mindset, we free ourselves from the tyranny of external pressures and the illusion of total control. We learn to navigate life with confidence, trusting in our ability to make decisions that align with our values, even when the world around us is unpredictable. In relationships, the dynamic of control can be particularly complex. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and shared autonomy, where both individuals maintain their sense of self while supporting each other's growth. However, in unhealthy relationships, one person may try to dominate or manipulate the other, creating an imbalance of power. In such situations, the individual who is being controlled may lose their sense of autonomy, which can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and helplessness. It is crucial, therefore, to establish healthy boundaries and communicate openly in relationships, ensuring that both individuals retain their power to make choices and direct their lives. Ultimately, the choice between control or being controlled comes down to self-awareness and intentionality. It is about recognizing where we have the power to make decisions and where we must let go of the need for certainty. It is about acknowledging the complexities of life and understanding that while we may not have control over everything, we always have control over how we respond. To live fully is to strike a balance between asserting our autonomy and accepting the unpredictable nature of the world around us. In doing so, we find freedom, purpose, and the strength to navigate whatever challenges come our way. In conclusion, the battle between control and being controlled is a lifelong journey that requires constant reflection and adjustment. It's not about trying to dominate every situation, nor is it about surrendering completely to external forces. It's about understanding where our power lies, where we can make meaningful choices, and where we must accept the unknown. By cultivating self-awareness, practicing resilience, and embracing the balance between control and surrender, we can live authentically and with purpose. The true strength lies not in controlling everything, but in knowing how to navigate the inevitable challenges that life brings. In the end, the most powerful way to live is by being the master of our responses and the architects of our own path forward.